Hi there, thanks for joining me for another tutorial in Melinda's Rubber Room. I'm Melinda Pierce and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm here today to show you how to make this gorgeous card. I love the effect that you get with the ombre paper that you can get absolutely free with every $50 purchase during celebration. So that goes until the end of February. So with every $50 purchase, this can be one of the items that you select for free, the designer series paper. Or there are stamp sets and other designer series paper that you can also choose from. So be sure to check out Celebration before the end of February to catch in on all of the deals. So for now, I'm going to point you down to my work surface to show you how to make this card. But first I want to show you that you can also make it with other paper as well. So this was another pack of designer series paper that I used, and I just used opposite sides of the paper to create that pattern. So you can do it with any type of paper that you want, but it looks especially cool with the ombre paper. All right, so let me point you down so you can see my work surface. All righty. So we're going to start with a card base that measures 5.5 by 8.5 and scored at 4 1/4. There are the measurements there. And then we are going to have two pieces of white cardstock that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. So you need one for the outside of the card as well as the inside. And then you need your designer series paper. So I am using 2 pieces of the ombre paper that starts off measuring 6 by 6. And I've already cut one strip off. But you're going to cut a total of 8 strips measuring 6 inches by 1.5. So this measures 6 inches here, and I'm going to measure over 1.5 here. And I'm using the Stampin' Up! Trimmer, and I'm going to take both of my pieces of paper at the same time, make sure they're all lined up perfectly, and put it in the cutter, and that way it'll cut it twice as fast. Just measuring that up to the 1.5 mark. So on the designer series paper with the ombre, you want to make sure that you're cutting it down this way so that you're getting the light pieces. You don't want to cut it this way. That's not going to give you the same effect. Okay, so another 1.5 inches. Okay, now we're just going to take those strips, and again, they're lined up together. So there's 2 pieces here that I'm cutting at one time. I'm putting this into the cutting track so that it's going to cut out on a diagonal. Close that up. Make sure you hold down your cutter so that your paper doesn't slide when you're cutting it. So we're just going to do the same thing on all of your strips. Have one more here to do. All right, so we are done with the cutter for now. And then we're going to take one of our pieces of cardstock that measures 4 by 5 1/4. And we are going to apply glue to the white piece of cardstock. So I found that if you apply the glue directly to the cardstock instead of to the pieces of designer series paper, it's not quite as messy. So all we're going to do is take, let me make sure I'm in the camera here. Going to take our pieces, our triangles, and line the tip up to the very bottom and have this piece going up and down, vertical. So that's your first piece. And then you're going to take the second piece, and if you started with a light one, your next one is going to be a dark one. So if you just have 2 designer series papers that are just different patterns, then you don't have to worry about light and dark, obviously. But if you're doing the ombre effect, you want to switch off between light and dark and light and just keep going all the way across. What's kind of fun about this technique is you can actually have it going the other way and have it look like a kind of like a sunset. So this is one that I did in purple, but if you had it done in like yellow, it would look like a sun beaming down, which would be really cool. And then just have a saying or something right up at the top. So keep that in mind. There's lots of different ways that you can use this technique. You want to just make sure that these strips are nice and tight together. And don't worry about the pieces going off the edges or this one just barely being on the white cardstock. At the end, we're just going to cut all of that away, all that excess. So at first when I did this technique, I applied the glue to the triangles and I ended up having glue all over the place because I was putting too much glue on these pieces that weren't actually on the white piece of cardstock. So it just created a big mess. So that's why I think it's easier just to put it on the white cardstock and you know exactly where your glue needs to be. Looks like I cut this piece of cardstock, but I didn't create the triangle. Not sure if this is recording. Hang on. Yep, we're doing okay. It's so hard to see that when the camera is turned. Okay, so I have one little bitty piece. It needs to go right down here at the bottom. All right, I think that is all attached. So then we're going to turn this over and we're just going to cut off all these extra pieces. So you can either do that with a scissor or with your paper cutter. I think I'm just going to use a scissor. And those little ones on the end at the very bottom are a little bit tricky to stay on to the white cardstock because there's just not much room for adhesion there. So you might have to go back at the end and glue them down just a little bit better. So one of the reasons that I like to put the saying right at these triangles, I mean at the tips of the triangles, is because it covers up any any mistakes that may have happened down there. Okay, so now this is just going to be attached to the card base like so. All right, so now I just need to do my greeting down at the bottom. So I'm going to use this little thank you. Like so. And I'm going to use this punch. So after my last video, I think I used this punch at the last video, and I went back and looked in the catalog, and it wasn't in the catalog, but we do sell it online. I think it was in the prior mini catalog, and it's been carried over. So this is called the Banners Pick-a-Punch, and it's item number 153608, and it has 3 channels for each of these different types of punches. So you actually get 6 punches in one. So it's a great value. It doesn't take up as much room as 2 separate punches. So you want to just stamp your greeting and then punch it, and then take the piece of cardstock that you punched out, put that back on your greeting. You can see it right over here. And that's going to tell you where to cut your cardstock. Now that that little flag at the end of the saying should be about the same distance on both sides. Okay, so there is my thank you, and then I'm going to put this on a banner with that, using that same punch. So I'm going to use the next channel up from the one that I used for the thank you. I'll put that right on top so I can see where I want to make my next cut or my next punch. I'm going to put this back on top. That's the piece that I already cut off. Lay it right on top so I know where to cut it. Put that back in the punch. Line it up on the back. And now I should have a nice mat for my stamped saying. So you have a nice mat all the way around, as opposed to some punches where you'll just be able to make it longer or skinnier. I mean, longer or shorter this way. It doesn't allow you to go wider. So that's what's great about this punch, because you get a nice border all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that on. So any of the products that you see today can be purchased on my online store at www.melindapierce, melindaPierce.stampinup.net. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help you out. You can just send me a message along with this YouTube video, or you can join me over on my Facebook page, which is Melinda's Rubber Room on Facebook. And you can see a lot of great projects over there, as well as some other tutorials. So be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you'd like to follow me on Facebook, that would be great too. We can share all kinds of different ideas for projects. Okay, so there is my finished card. It's just a little bit different from my original one because I didn't add the dragonflies yet. So those are the dragonflies. So I haven't decided if I want to do dragonflies on this one again, but that's an option. And the dragonflies are from the new mini catalog. It's from the Dragonfly Garden, and it has a corresponding punch to punch those out. It's a gorgeous set in the new mini catalog. All right, thanks again for joining me for my tutorial. I hope you learned something new. That is my goal with my tutorials, to teach you a little something new and maybe a different way to use your products. So thank you for joining me, and be sure to check out my other social media sites here on YouTube and on Facebook, also on Instagram under CA Stamper. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.